When the gods grew weary, humanity was born. Darkness crept across the blood-red horizon. From the blazing sky, streaks of green light flickered, cracks in the fabric of space, glimpses into realms no mortal eye could comprehend. Above, a massive metallic structure hovered silently, Enlilion, the mothership of those who came from beyond. Its cold, silver light washed over the barren desert below, a wasteland that had once been the heart of a flourishing civilization. Inside the great hall of polished black alloy, Enki, the master architect, stood before the council. His golden eyes swept across their faces, expressions carved from stone. The Anunnaki elders sat in a crescent, draped in long silver robes. At the center, Anu, the supreme ruler, clasped his hands together as if holding the fate of worlds between his fingers. Nibiru is dying, Enki's voice echoed through the chamber, heavy and unyielding. If we cannot restore the atmosphere, our civilization will fall. Silence followed, thick and suffocating, broken only by the distant hum of antimatter engines buried deep within the ship's core. Enlil, his elder brother and the enforcer of law, spoke coldly. We have scoured every system within reach. There is no resource sufficient to save Nibiru. Not every system. Enki's eyes gleamed with defiance. Earth. There is gold there, more than enough to repair the atmosphere. A ripple of unease passed through the council. Earth, a wild and untamed world teeming with life. To extract the gold meant enduring harsh conditions and risking their own kind. Anu's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. Who will bear the burden of this labor? Enlil's lips curled into a cruel smile. The Ijigi, he said, referring to the lower caste of Anunnaki. Let them toil in the depths. Enki shook his head. They are not slaves. Then, Anu's tone softened, thoughtful yet dangerous. Create those who can endure it. In that moment, a decision was made, one that would alter the fate of two worlds forever and herald the beginning of humankind. The chamber grew colder. Enki felt the weight of destiny settle on his shoulders, a burden even a god could barely bear. He knew what creating a new species meant. Life forged by their hands would not be free. It would be bound to the will of the Anunnaki, chained to labor beneath the earth's surface. Anu's golden eyes locked onto his. You are the life-bringer, Enki. This task falls to you. A tremor ran through the floor as the ship drifted lower, breaching Earth's atmosphere. Beneath them stretched the endless plains of Eden, a cradle of green valleys and winding rivers. Rich veins of gold pulsed beneath the soil, but they lay deep, deeper than even the Igigi could dig without rebellion or ruin. Enki exhaled slowly. I will do it, he said. But in his heart stirred a dangerous thought, a whisper that the others would never dare entertain. What if we gave them more? 3 moons later, in the sterile glow of the bioforges, Enki moved with precision. His hands, crafted for creation, hovered above the gestation chambers. Organic strands of life, primal, raw, swirled within the glass. This was no simple task. To shape new life required breaking the natural laws, bending the very essence of being. A figure stepped from the shadows, Ninhursag, the mother of life and Enki's most trusted ally. Her silver hair shimmered like starlight as she approached. You are playing with forces beyond even us, she murmured. The council only wants workers, but I know you, Enki. What are you hiding? Enki's lips curled into a faint, defiant smile. I will give them strength, but also something more, awareness. If they are to bear our burden, should they not also know freedom? Ninhursag's breath caught. If Enlil discovers this, he will not, Enki said sharply. His voice softened as he touched the chamber's surface. Inside, a form began to take shape, a fusion of Anunnaki blood and Earth's native creatures. Let them think these beings are simple, but one day they will awaken, and when they do, they will no longer serve. A chime rang through the chamber. The first vessel was ready. With a gesture, Enki released the seals. The glass slid away with a hiss, and warm mist spilled across the floor. A figure emerged, tall, bronze-skinned, with eyes like the midnight sky. Enki's heart thundered. Here stood the first human. Adamu, rise, Enki whispered, and Adamu opened his eyes. For the first time, a being shaped by gods stood upright. Neither beast nor divine, but something new, something unpredictable. Far above in the cold heavens, Enlil watched from the observation deck, unaware of the seed of rebellion now planted deep in the heart of humankind. 6 years later, The mines beneath Eden trembled with the sound of endless toil. Deep underground, where sunlight had never touched, the air was thick with heat and the bitter tang of crushed stone. By the hundreds, the Adamu labored, hands roughened by the weight of stone axes, bodies slick with sweat. Gold gleamed faintly in the cavern walls, torn from the earth by their blood and bone. From the shadows of the observation platform, Enki watched in silence. His heart twisted. They were stronger than he had imagined, more resilient, but also more aware. He saw it in their eyes, a spark, the first trembling embers of something the council would call dangerous. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. Nisag stood at his side, her gaze heavy with unspoken worry. "They are restless," she murmured. "They murmur to one another when they think no one listens. Some of them have begun to question." "Good, good," he said quietly. "Let them question. That is how it begins." Ninhursag's expression darkened. Enlil will not tolerate rebellion. If they rise, he will destroy them, and you know it. A distant rumble shook the walls. Another mine shaft collapsed. For months now, the Ajigi, once the laboring class, had grown bitter. With the Adamu toiling in their place, they had tasted freedom. And freedom, once given, could not be taken back without blood. Enki exhaled sharply. "The Ajigi are no longer content to stand beneath us. The Adamu will follow in their footsteps." His golden eyes burned with fierce certainty. The gods cannot hold dominion forever. Above, in the high towers of the Anunnaki citadel, Enlil watched the plains of Aden stretch below him. His face was as unyielding as carved stone. Reports of unrest had reached him. The Adamu worked hard, but something stirred within them. He had seen it in their eyes during his inspections. Pride, defiance, and defiance was a seed that grew into rebellion. Enlil turned as a warrior entered, a tall figure clad in blackened armor. Namtar, the hand of judgment. His voice was cold, stripped of emotion. "The Ajigi grow bold, my lord. There are whispers that they will no longer work the sky forges. Some speak of laying down their tools altogether." Enlil's fingers curled into a fist. "Then let them break," he said softly. "Let the weak perish. I will not see the order of heaven fall to chaos." "And the Adamu?" Namtar asked. A flicker of something darker crossed Enlil's face. "They are nothing but clay. If Enki has given them too much, I will burn away his mistakes. The flood will cleanse all impurities." Deep beneath the earth, in the black heart of the mines, Adamu paused, lifting his head. His muscles burned, but the pain no longer ruled him. Around him, others labored, brothers and sisters molded from the same divine hands. But when he closed his eyes, he felt more. Dreams, memories not his own, whispers in the dark. He did not know the name Enki, but somehow he felt the hand of a creator who wished him to be free. And as the ground trembled beneath his feet, Adamu began to wonder, what lies beyond the mines, beyond the gods? Far above, as storms gathered on the horizon, Enki's words hung heavy in the air. The gods cannot hold dominion forever. 10 years later. The sky over Eden burned with a strange light. Violet storms gathered at the edges of the horizon, their thunder shaking the earth. The winds carried whispers, rumors of rebellion. Beneath the surface, deep in the mines, the first spark of defiance had already ignited. In the heart of the Anunnaki citadel, Enki moved swiftly through the shadowed corridors. His thoughts were heavy. The Ajigi, no longer willing to labor, murmured of revolt. And the Adamu, the humans he had crafted, were changing in ways even he had not predicted. He entered the life forge, where Ninhursag stood waiting. The pale glow of the gestation chambers bathed her in silver light. She turned as he approached, reading the urgency in his face. "It's begun," Enki said quietly. The Ajigi refused to work. The Adamu, they are waking up. They question their purpose. Ninhursag's expression darkened. "And Enlil?" Enki's voice was bitter. "He watches. He waits for an excuse to destroy everything." He hesitated before adding, "He speaks of a flood, a final cleansing to wipe them from existence." A tremor ran through the walls, a distant sign of unrest beneath the earth. Ninhursag's voice softened, but there was steel beneath her words. "What will you do, Enki? Will you stand aside and let them die?" Enki's golden eyes burned with resolve. "No, I will protect them, even if it means defying the council." The uprising begins. In the darkness of the mines, the air was thick with heat and anger. Adamu stood among his people, his hands roughened by years of labor, but something new stirred inside him, a fire he could not name. Beside him, Lilitu, fierce and unyielding, raised her voice. The gods take our strength, but they cannot take our will. We are no longer slaves. A roar of agreement swept through the gathered workers. The tools of their bondage had become weapons. The first strike of rebellion was about to fall. High above, Enlil stood on the observation deck, his face carved from stone. The rebellion had reached his ears. It would not be tolerated. He turned to Namtar, his enforcer. Let them rise, he said coldly. When the flood comes, nothing will survive. The secret gift. In his hidden chamber, Enki worked quickly. With trembling hands, he encoded a message deep within the life seed of humanity, a secret that no flood could wash away. Awaken, remember, rise. As the first raindrops fell from the sky, a voice stirred within Adamu's mind, ancient and powerful. And for the first time, he understood. The gods were not invincible.